What is going on, Trash Talkers? We open up by going over everything that is wrong with the Los Angeles Lakers post restart and what they can do to get back into their dominant contending manner. Next, we jump over to the NFL where we dissect rumors of Antonio Brown being a top free agent candidate for teams and debate which offenses would fit the former All Pros game. Plus, we discuss all that is going on with NFL players opting out of the season and which teams will struggle most. Finally, we debate who the most dominant player is in the MLB at this very moment. All that and much more coming your way right now. Nick, how is it going? How was your week? How have you been?
Besides the hurricane or tropical storm that you want to call it, that blew up the East Coast yesterday, I've been doing pretty fine. But I was out there this morning, and it looks like some people got hit pretty bad. I heard that there's over 2 million people that are out of power. Hopefully, that's not the case anymore. Hopefully, they've been restored, and everybody's starting to get back to their normal life because we never want to see tragedy like that, and we saw it in a few places yesterday. It's sad to see, but hopefully we can start to recoup and move on.
Yeah, I think before we get started, I want to give all our well wishes to everyone affected by the hurricane, the tropical storm. Make sure everybody still has power, and also the people out in Beirut. I don't know, we don't like to discuss, political topics or world events, but it's hard to not keep your well wishes and prayers for those of you that follow faith. Um, the people of Beirut suffered a massive tragedy, our prayers and our thoughts are with them at this point in time. All right, so let's jump into some sports because we actually have sports again. Like, we're not talking about it possibly happening. We actually have sports again. I'm so thrilled. I know you have been watching sports.
Oh yeah.
We talk every night, and it's just one of those things where it kind of feels a little back to normal. Obviously things are a little different, but I love complaining about the refs and just all the everything that comes along with watching sports. So but one thing I have noticed is that the Los Angeles Lakers, they've been struggling a lot. They haven't been up to par with where they were post break, and or a pre break, I should say. And now that they're post restart, it looks like they're struggling hard. I wonder. Um, do you think that all the losses that they've have suffered between players not coming back, players who aren't playing, is that affecting them moving forward?
Yeah, I definitely think that's affecting them. The loss of Avery Bradley, absolute massive defensive player. You're going to miss that right away. Rajon Rondo was a great facilitator for him. That's a huge loss. I think LeBron is trying to take on too many roles right now, and I think that's affecting his play. And you see Anthony Davis going off right now, but he has to in order for them to win any of these games. They've been down to the wire. Pretty much all of the games since the restart have been right at the buzzer. We've seen a few buzzer beaters already. It's been wild gameplay, but for the Lakers, I think they're just trying to do too much, and it's really hurting them, hurting their chemistry. They're not able to find their rhythm, and I think they need to. It's going to take them a few more games, and hopefully they'll be able to figure out before the playoffs because that could be a huge issue once they get into it.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis is playing like an MVP candidate right now.
Oh, definitely.
He's putting on his best Giannis Antetokounmpo role play at this point in time.
He looks like the Anthony
Uh,
Davis of old.
I mean, he looks like the guy that the Lakers went out and got. He doesn't look like he's the number two option on that team. He looks like he's 1A,
Yeah.
which is what the Lakers need. And obviously, with the way things have been going, they need it now more than ever. Um, my question is, do teams like Denver and Utah and the Clippers, and we've seen them beat both Utah and the Clippers already. Both were nail biters. Both were very narrow margins of victory. Again, Anthony Davis popped off on both of those games. Did it? I think that we have to seriously be concerned about where the Lakers are. And I don't know, do you follow that same sentiment? Like, do you really think that they're going to struggle moving forward?
Well, it's kind of hard to think that they're not going to find their way out of this. I think that they have great coaching staff. I think the players, obviously, even the ones they brought in are great players. I think they're going to be able to figure it out. I just think it. I don't know whether it's going to take longer than the regular season because they're only given 8 regular season games, and then we're right into the postseason. And I'm sure
Right.
they'll be fine in the first series, but it's not going to be too much long. Like you get maximum 5 games in the first series, and then you're moving on. There's not much time, and it's only going to get much harder. So I think that they're gonna have to figure this out quickly. But I do have faith in the Lakers to figure it out. LeBron, Anthony Davis, J.R. Smith, like all these guys and they go deep on the bench too. I think that their bench depth is better than I thought it was, and I think that they're gonna be able to figure this out as a group.
Yeah, I for the Lakers' sake, I hope that they do. For my sake, I'd be very happy if they didn't. And that's talking as a Celtics fan, obviously. But LeBron, when you have LeBron and Anthony Davis on a roster, they can never be counted out, right? So the most you can have is skepticism, but you cannot actually count them out. And they are the number one seed. They excuse me, they do lead the West, and they are being gone after by every single, I mean, every game that they play, they're getting that team's best possible game that night. They're not resting players. They are absolutely full force against them. And that's what they have to deal with. I mean, when you're on the top of the mountain, everybody's trying to claw at you to bring you down, and that's exactly where they are. Um, but as for finding a rhythm for the playoffs, I think they'll be fine in the first few rounds. My concern is the war of attrition, making sure that the depth that they have continues to roll that the way that they're playing, because again, they're depth players for a reason. They're not starters. They're not, it they are big question marks. Can they keep it up? Can they continue on with exactly what they're doing? And when you play a series against the Utah Jazz or the Houston Rockets or the Dallas Mavericks or the Clippers, it's going to be a war of attrition, and I don't know if the bench of the Clippers is going to wear them out, or if the shooting power of the Mavericks is going to wear their defense thin. I think that there's a lot of questions now with the Lakers, and what seemed to be such a surefire threat in the West has now really just kind of dove a little bit in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we need to take into account. And I think something else that we need to remember is every other team in the bubble is also coming back from this, 4 months off from basketball. Everybody is working their way back, and everybody is playing pretty slow at this point. So you have to also think that all these teams are going to get better through time. And so the Lakers not only have to get better through time, but need to make sure that they're getting back to their old selves, which might take even longer because if they're not their old selves, there's no way they're going to go beat Utah. There's no way they're going to go beat the Clippers. Like I just don't see that happening. I don't see them making it past the second round of the playoffs, and that's not much time. We're not that far away from that moment. So
Right.
they've really got to kick it into high gear. They've really got to put in that extra work. They've got to be, following the steps of Anthony Davis, whatever he's, eating and drinking, whatever he's doing, it's working. I think they need to start getting on that because it's the basketball right now is better than it's been in a very long time, and I think that's in part due to players just being a little bit rusty, but you have to, as an elite athlete, you need to find your way out of it. There's no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also a heightened level of interest just because of the fact that there's so little time for teams to make a run for the playoffs, and then you have playoff seeding, and then we're jumping right into the playoffs. I mean, it is bang bang boom. We are in it, and like there is, when with an 82 game season, and we talked about the last few weeks with baseball being 162 games, you lose a lot of that. I mean, a lot of these big matchups don't matter, but now these games, they're so micro focused on these on the matchups that are happening that you have like every point matters, every possession matters, and it's coming down to coaching decisions. It's coming down to last shots. It's coming down to possession, shot clock. You name it, and that's what revives people's interest in a sport, specifically, obviously, basketball in this state. And then obviously with Anthony Davis, I think the Lakers, as much as they need to worry, they can also be at ease because they have the one player that has the absolute most playoff experience in the NBA as of right now, and that's LeBron James. And LeBron James going head to head with Anthony Davis every single day, iron sharpens iron. And the two of them going head to head, they're going to make each other better. They're making their teammates better, and they're going to continue to push the envelope and try to get them there. And so again, there's obvious skepticism, but there's also some sign of a light at the end of the tunnel if you want to think in a positive light there. Outside of the Lakers, though, I want to say that the NBA bubble restart has been absolutely incredible. I think that Adam Silver and the entire NBA has done an amazing job. If players could stop going to the goddamn gentlemen's club and not just for the freaking wings, um, the NBA would have no blemishes on them at all. And it's not on them; it's on the players. If you don't want to stay in the bubble, don't be there. It's that simple. Um, with that being said, there are some teams that they're starting to open my eyes again with a heightened level of interest and every game and position mattering. I think we've seen some interesting stuff from I want to say the Portland Trail Blazers. If they can make it into the West playoffs, they are going to make a serious run at contention because you have Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, uh, Carmelo Anthony. You have incredible size in the backcourt. I they are truly a team that doesn't want to be seen in the playoffs, and they have quite the hurdle to make. I think they're either 2 or 3 games out of making the playoffs right now. So they are hanging on by a very thin margin, and they need to get that going. But who's surprised you in the NBA so far? Who are you looking forward to seeing?
I think I'm actually looking forward to see the Miami Heat in the playoffs. I think that although they just beat the Celtics last night and that was a killer to watch, Celtics have been playing like garbage lately, and we'll see if they can fix that. But Miami, I think that roster can't be taken lightly. They have a lot of young talent that a lot of people don't seem to be taking as serious as they need to, and they're gonna make you pay for it. They've got serious 3 point shooters. They've got just overall talent that can go far, and I think they're going to be the surprise in the East in the
As
playoffs.
long
I
as
think
Goran Dragic remains healthy. I mean, he
right, he
did
did
suffer
go
that
down
knee
with that knee
injury.
injury yesterday. That's correct. So
Yeah,
that
so
I mean him off the bench, he had at least 20 points yesterday. That was huge for them, and if he can be that guy, they also have other guys. You got to think of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. Like these are guys that are up and comers that people don't take seriously, and I think that's a huge problem because they're going to make you pay every single time if you're not
and then
right
they
on
have
them.
yeah, they also have scrappy players like Kelly Olynyk, who is a
Absolutely.
big man who he can bang with the big guys, but he can stretch the floor and shoot from distance, and he's not afraid to mix it up with people and start stuff on the court. He is willing to do the dirty work, and I think that is pretty key. Every team needs a player like that, whether it's a Marcus Smart or you know I mean, you can go to like Ron Artest or sorry, Meta World Peace. Whoever it is for your team, you need that one guy who is going to really stand up for the team. He's going to jump for the balls that are on the ground, the 50-50 balls. He's doing everything in his power. Um,
I think
so
one thing we also need to take into account is the the Heat beat the Celtics last night without Jimmy Butler. That's huge because you
Yeah.
add Jimmy Butler to the equation, and I think they could have absolutely smoked the Celtics. And that was when Jason Tatum was having a pretty good game. That like the entire team was doing pretty well. They just the Heat were just outperforming them, and I think that's going to be a huge problem for the rest of the East moving forward into the playoffs. I think this is a team that really has a strong potential, and uh, if they are lacking a little bit of size, which could hurt them against a team like the Bucks. But I think that they if they keep that willpower, that strong willpower, that's going to carry them far, and I think
Yeah.
they're going to do really well.
The one team that, you know, I think a lot of people get hyped up about, and it kind of confuses me, but the Philadelphia 76ers, I, d- Ben Simmons, I don't think he's all that, and I don't think Joel Embiid is either. I think they talk a big game, and they had the hashtag trust the process, and they had the whole mentality and everything that was going on with them, and Markel Fultz didn't work out. Well, they're struggling hard with this restart, and I think that they should be watched. And you know what? It's time that they start getting held accountable, because how long do we have to trust the process before it actually starts paying off? uh, Reports are coming out of the bubble that Joel Embiid and Al Horford are, basically at each other's throats. They are not getting along. They're not working well together on or off the court. And, you have a seasoned veteran in Al Horford, and you have a loudmouth potential star in Joel Embiid, but he continues to talk a big game. He hasn't been able to show it on a consistent basis. And between the two of them, who knows what the injury concern is? I mean, it's at a heightened level with them. I think we have to really temper our expectations and start taking a step back on the Sixers. I think they're a team that we really need to just be like, you know what? Until you show us something, we can't expect much of you. And they keep dropping in the standings.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. They lost I believe the first two games that in the bubble restart. And then they won their last game, but it was what like a 20 something point comeback where they won it in the last minute or so. Like that you can't have that every single game. You're going to lose the majority of those. Teams are just going to once they figure you out, they're going to just push right past you. And I think the Sixers, without them being able to find that chemistry and get along to in the least, I think that they're not going to be long in the playoffs. I think right now they're the sixth seed. I don't see them making it up, especially if the Heat move into the third seed and face them in the first round. There's no way the 76ers are beating the Heat. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of different storylines to watch, and I'm glad again that we have sports to watch. Um, I want you guys let us know down in the comments. Type for the YouTube people watching on YouTube. Type down in the comments. Let us know which team that you're rooting for in the restart, and then which team you think we should be concerned about. Again, I've given you the teams that I'm concerned about. You got the Lakers and the Sixers, and then we've given you also teams that we're pretty high on. But I want to leave the NBA conversation there for right now. I want to move on to the NFL, because we've had a lot of stories, a lot of information coming out of the NFL over the last week, and I kind of want to get to some of it. So the first thing I want to talk about was the Seahawks and the Ravens have emerged as favorites to possibly land Antonio Brown, um, and that there's other teams that could possibly be involved, some that could also really utilize his services if the fit is right. So it came down to the fact that AB has received an 8-game suspension from the NFL, and before every team now knows that, going into possibly signing him. Nick, what team do you think is the best fit for him, if any team, if you see him even coming back?
I think the best fit for him would be the Seattle Seahawks. I think you have to look at the two teams who are most interested in him, because there really aren't a lot of teams that need his services and that are interested, because We all know Antonio Brown is going to be a headache at some point or another, and you need the right fit for him. Pete Carroll is a player's coach. He knows how to deal with big personalities. If you remember the Legion of Boom, they were full of personality, and I think Pete Carroll handled them perfectly, and he continues to handle their big personalities in a great manner. And I think that Antonio Brown would thrive there. Russell Wilson has been asking for him the last 2 years. They had to settle for Josh Gordon last season once he got released because no one was able to touch Antonio Brown. They knew he was going to get hit with suspension at some point. And now that he has been finally hit with that suspension, teams are going to look to get him. And I think Seattle, it's a great fit, and they could use him. He'd be a great fit alongside DK Metcalf and I can't Tyler
Lockett.
Tyler Lockett. Thank you. I think putting him in the mix there, you put Tyler in the slot, and you put Antonio on the outside with DK on the other side of the field, and I think that's a great lineup. Plus, they just got Greg Olsen in the offseason to go along with Will Dissly. I think that'll be a great tandem at tight
end. And they have
end.
a three-headed monster.
Three-headed monster, exactly. You got Chris Carson. You just got Carlos Hyde, and you have Rashad Penny. Yep. Now, I know, each of those running backs has had their issues in the past, but as a unit in that offense, they're not going to be asked or tasked to do too much. And I think that with their limited role, we always see Chris Carson in a limited role performing well beyond what anybody asks him to do. And I think as long as he can keep the fumbles to a minimum, that they're going to be perfectly fine. And I think that Antonio Brown in that system, they just got Jamal Adams. They still have Bobby Wagner. I think this team, I've said it in the past, I think they're ready to make a run for another Super Bowl. And I think Antonio Brown would be a great addition to this offense.
Yeah, I think he would be incredible. I like Seattle a lot. And obviously they're looking. I'm going to take it a different route. I still don't see him coming back to the NFL, and I've been on this stance for quite a while. I just don't believe that teams are willing to put up with everything that they saw between everything that happened in Pittsburgh. Then he went to Oakland and soured everything with John Gruden and Mike Mayock there. And then his time in New England was fine, but all the off-field issues started. And then it got worse over time, and it kept getting worse. And he was headlining news stories that he wasn't even in the league. He wasn't playing anymore. You don't want a distraction like that. So when you're talking about the NFL possibly coming back and playing, the last thing you need with limited time, I mean, you're talking about 8 games. We don't even know if the NFL is going to make it 8 games in their season. I don't know if a team is willing to put up with Antonio Brown on the roster at this point in time. And again, I've said this before. If he does not play this year, he will never play in the NFL again. I mean, he's unofficially retired twice at this point. So I really, he is a loose cannon. I can't imagine that, the only ones that I can see possibly going for this would be Bruce Arians, possibly, in Tampa Bay, Pete Carroll in Seattle, and John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Those are really the 3 that I could see really working with him. They are all really good players, coaches. Somebody brought up the fact that maybe the Chiefs would be interested. I just don't see room on that roster for him. We talked about this yesterday, I believe. Between Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce,
Sammy Watkins,
you need a running back, so you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's there. They got him in the draft at the end of the first round. There's just not enough room for everyone, not enough spots on the football field. And at this point, I don't think teams are willing to take on the headache that is Antonio Brown. And I think he's an incredible talent. I think he still possesses everything on the football field. I think there's just too many questions surrounding him as a person, not as a player.
I think one team that is a dark horse to get him, but would be, I think, a great fit, and you're not going to think so, but I think the Miami Dolphins would be a great fit for him. It's his hometown. He's right there in Hollywood, Florida, which is borders Miami, and he fits right into the culture there. I think the only issue you're going to run into is with the head coach Brian Flores. He's a no nonsense guy. He's not going to take any crap from anybody. And I think Antonio Brown, I think he's going to realize that right away. And I think he'll be fine. I think he knows that this is his last shot and he's going to take it seriously. We saw what he did with Bill Belichick in that system. He was perfectly fine. He followed the rules. He did what was asked of him, and it was all looking good on the field. And I think that's exactly how he's going to approach it if he goes to Miami. I think there's going to be no issues. And it's a perfect spot for him because Miami just lost Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson. I believe it's their 3 and 4 wide receivers, possibly their 2 and 3 wide receivers. So now all you're really left with is Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki at tight end, and you have Jordan Howard and Matt Breida at running back. But you need more offensive weapons. You need more pass catchers. And if you're going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick back there or Tua Tagovailoa, you need to have more weapons. That I don't want any rookie quarterback, especially a guy like Tua who's coming off that injury. I don't want him playing in this offense that has absolutely no weapons. This is how you ruin a quarterback's future. You're gonna they're gonna start second guessing themselves. They're gonna get injured. When teams are weak on one side, then everybody just starts. They're not playing at their highest level, and that's how players get hurt. And I don't want to see that happen. I think Tua has a bright future, and this isn't the option for him unless they add Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown and Devontae Adams would be a great tandem, and Mike Gesicki, an up-and-coming tight end. I think that would create for a much stronger offense, even if they had Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson. So I think that's a dark horse for Antonio Brown, but I think that is a very viable option for him.
I don't see the Dolphins as a possible fit. You were right about that. Brian Flores is a no-nonsense type of guy. He's not going to deal with any BS from any player, no matter their status. He comes from the Bill Belichick tree of coaching. We know how stars have done in Bill Belichick's system, but that's also because he had this probably isn't the best word, but the clout, right? He had the rings to say, listen, I know what I'm doing. You need to listen to me, and I'm going to do it my way, or you're out of here. Brian Flores doesn't have that. Bill O'Brien, Matt Patricia, that's what they struggle with. When they try to implement Bill's system, but they don't have the rings to back it up. Until they prove otherwise, they have to kind of, shape it the way they want, especially with incoming players. Now you're adding a loose cannon like Antonio Brown. The GM Chris Greer over there is not one to add veteran talent. He comes from college scouting. He's also a no nonsense guy. His father was a GM in the NFL. He was a no nonsense guy. They are very, very football savvy people, and they stick to exactly what they want. And at this point, you're talking about a player that's going to be suspended for 8 games. They're not going to be able to speak with the team. They can get the playbook, but that's it. They can't talk to the team unless it's preseason. Once the regular season starts, it's over. Then they're on their own to figure it out. So you're telling me that Antonio Brown in week 9, or if they have a bye week, it'll be week 10, then has to pick up the offense, start practicing and everything. It's not worth it. I just do not see it possibly happening this year. And again, if it doesn't happen this year, it's most likely never going to happen again. I just don't see it. I just
no,
don't.
I get how you feel. I get how you feel.
I see the fit. I do. I see the fit that you're talking about. I think the Houston Texans could use him. He's never going to fit with Bill O'Brien. He's never going to.
I think everybody can agree that he's not going to fit with Bill O'Brien.
I think a lot of teams could use, but I think a lot of teams could use Antonio Brown's play on the field. Not many teams are willing to put up with Antonio Brown, the person. That's my point. So I have no issues with him filling the role. I have issues with him as a person.
I think he can change. I think he already showed that he can change. What he did in Oakland, what he did in Oakland, and yes, I mean Oakland, he did on purpose. That was on purpose. He meant to do all of that. All that shenanigans was to get him out of there. He did not want to be
But
there for whatever
I get
reason.
that.
And
But
once he
listen
got
to
to a
me.
spot he wanted to be, he was happy. He
Listen,
followed the rules.
Linda, listen. Okay. Antonio Brown, yes, I get that. He did that on purpose. But what he did in Pittsburgh was not on purpose. What he did off the field while right before his time in New England was not on purpose. Those were things that he did outside of the game of football that caused an issue with him, his character. Then you add the purposeful acts that happened in Oakland, and you're just saying this guy is willing to do whatever he wants when he wants. He isn't willing to stick to authority. He literally does, like, there's no controlling him, and there's not many teams, especially with the youth in this game today. I mean, if you look at these rosters today, they're filled with young players. The draft has been plentiful the last few years, and a lot of rosters are starting to lose the veteran side of things, and they're getting much younger. You don't want him around the young players. You don't want that mentality being spread. You want it to be built the way you're trying to build it. And if Antonio Brown is there, you don't know if you're going to get the AB that was in New England, if you're going to get the AP that was in Oakland, or if you're going to get the AP that was in Pittsburgh for all those years. You don't know which one you're going to get. Or option D, it could be a completely new one, or E, all of the above. You don't know, and that's my issue.
Well, I'll leave it at this. Antonio Brown will be on an NFL roster before week 1. And he'll be ready to go in week 9. No matter where he is, he'll be ready to go. And he's going to be the AB of old. This is a guy that practices every single day. He wasn't playing to, for anything. He just plays to play because he loves the sport. And I think he's going to continue that mentality. Uh, you know, he you say you don't want him around young guys. He's one of the best, if not the best route runner of all time. Maybe Jerry Rice, but there's nobody else. So I think that's a guy I definitely want around the younger talent because he can teach them so much. They know not
If
to
he
follow
takes
his
on a
off-field
role,
actions. And he'll tell you
they
that
do,
too.
but they don't. We could. We're gonna spin in circles with this. I'll give you the last word on this. I've said my piece. I don't need to continue to iterate what I'm
We're
thinking.
we're what 35 days out from the NFL season. In the next
Roughly.
34 days, we're going to see Antonio Brown in an NFL roster.
No, I think that's a major issue if we do, but we'll see. Um, the other major issue that's happened in the NFL is that we have had, I don't even know what the count is anymore. I know the last time I saw it was over 40 players have opted out of the 2020 NFL season, 8 of which came from the New England Patriots. My heart health is just waning at this point. Um, Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, Marcus Cannon, Brandon Bolden, amongst others, have all said they're out. Dolphins lost Albert Wilson and Alan Hearns, as you mentioned earlier. The Bills lost Star Lotulelei and EJ Gaines. Um, that
CJ Mosley for the Jets.
and that's just the AFC East.
That's just
That's
the
just
AFC. That's one out of 8 divisions.
Right. I mean, we're talking about star players who are saying no thank you to playing this season. And I think you're going to see more because the NFLPA and the NFL struck a deal to extend the deadline to, I believe it's tomorrow or Friday. I don't think we've gotten clarification on that just yet.
I'm assuming at
But
this point it's going to be Friday.
I think Friday I think Friday as well. But and I believe, was it Dan Graziano that you said was said there's possible star players that are all going to do it at the same time. They're all going to opt out.
Mike Florio.
Mike Florio. Even more reason to believe it. Mike Florio reporting that, there's a group of star players that have gotten together and are going to opt out at the same, or planning on opting out at the same time. I think if that, like, all it takes, right, is for the NFL to see a player like Patrick Mahomes opt out, and then things will change like that. Everything will change. The whole landscape. They will create bubbles. They will do everything it takes. because they need to, they have so much riding on the young stars that they market around.
Well, I think
And
even without a big star being gone, I think I know this isn't the NFL, but UConn just canceled their football season. I think that's huge because that's going to be a trickle down effect for a lot of teams. I think there's going to be a lot more schools that cancel their football seasons, and I think that may have an impact. They've already talked about canceling football, college football altogether, and if
yeah,
they do that, the NFL is going to start thinking about that. So I don't even think it has to be a big name player. There's outside influences that are playing a huge factor.
before we get to the main question, right? I want to say this. I think that the NFL should be ashamed of themselves because they, out of every single league in Northern America, they have had the most time to come up with a plan to protect players, to come up with a bubble system, to figure out how they were going to truly protect everybody involved with the game. And they have sat on their asses and done jack all. I mean,
Now,
they have truly done nothing.
we don't know the extent of the COVID protocols that they're making everybody follow, and we haven't.
I,
What we
just to answer that, I mean, look at all the players that are opting out. They know
that it's
exactly what
very
their
different. I
protocols
mean,
are.
I know we've only been really paying attention to the Patriots players, but in most of those cases, it's players with newborn babies or have family members that are at risk, and you're not going to find that out of most players. What we've had 40 players opt out, and just about half of them are starters in the league. But I think that if you take in the big picture, that's 40 players out of what 3,500. You know,
But
that's a
we're also
small
talking
number.
like the deadline hasn't hit yet. We're not at the final tally. We
No,
don't
but
know
I
if
know
there's a
we're two
mass
days
incoming.
away. But I also don't expect a huge jump. I don't expect the entire league to say on Friday at 4 o'clock, "Oh, we're all opting out." No, that's not going to happen. It's all going to
They could
happen.
just to send a message.
I would. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised. It's That's not how these players work. Players have been reporting to camp the last few days. I think you see all these big names reporting, and they're there to play. They're getting ready. They're not going to just practice for nothing. They're not going to go out and put themselves at risk for a couple days just to say, "Oh, I opt out." And I'm going to go back to my family and put them at risk because I wanted to go try this out for a couple days. That's not how this is going to work.
Oh, I mean, I look at like, okay, so like a team like Denver, right? I don't know if you saw the video, but walking to their practice, they had to walk through um
It's a
what looked like a
sanitizer.
metal detector, right? But it had sanitizer that was spraying down on them, and then they also had to wear masks, and they had to um you know basically wash their hands before and everything like that, have gloves on, whatnot. I mean, is that what they're signing up for? Is that what they're playing with? I mean,
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that I don't that it's not intrusive. All you have to do is walk through this thing. It cleanses you. It sprays you with with sanitizer, and you just go on with your day. Like
but that's fine. But if that's the extent that the NFL is going to, then they truly don't take this seriously.
I think that's Denver's call. I think there's a lot of these
Even worse,
protocols.
that's the team. That's the team
How is
doing
it even
nothing for
worse
their
if
players
this is helping them?
because the league isn't doing a damn thing. Is my point.
A-
Just because the team does doesn't mean the league is.
I think the way each of these uh, owners and front offices have been handling the situation has been just fine. We haven't seen an outbreak yet. You know, we'll see in the next couple weeks how it is with players in and out of training camp. But I don't expect most of them or any of them really to catch COVID. I think as long as they stick with their current routine, they'll be perfectly fine. All you have to
Here's
do
what
is
I
go to work and go home.
here's what I can tell you. Three sports have come back for a restart or an actual start. Two of those sports implemented a bubble system. Those two sports have reported zero positive cases. The other one is on the brink of a shutdown because they have entire teams testing positive. The NFL is following the same protocols, the same systems that one league is doing.
It's different. It's different. We're talking about the MLB who rushed back after 3 weeks, and we're talking about the NFL who has had the entire offseason, has had the last 4 months to figure this out.
And they've done nothing. That's
They
the problem.
what are they supposed to? What are you gonna really see while nothing's happening? This is the off season.
It doesn't matter. They tell the public everything because that would be good PR for them. And if I know anything about Roger Goodell in the NFL,
So
they always go for the good PR.
But you
They
wouldn't
always go
you
for the
wouldn't
good
be
PR.
satisfied unless there was a bubble system. That's the only thing that you're satisfied with. But it's hard to
Or
do that
something
when you have a
different that-
team of 53 active players. Like what are you supposed to do? This isn't a team of 15.
I don't get paid millions of dollars to figure it out.
It's not 15 NBA players. These are much larger teams. The New Orleans Saints, their owner bought an entire four hotel floors that their players have the option of using if they don't want to go back to their families during training camp. So the next entire month, there's a hotel right next to the stadium that they can use at their leisure.
That was
Owners
that
are
the
doing.
owner did. That's something the owner did. I'm talking about the NFL.
But the NFL is giving a lot of the
governing body.
I'm fine with the NFL handing a lot of the power over to the owners because the owners are going to do what's in the best interest of their players.
Or some of them will do what's best interest of their pockets.
No, I don't think there's anybody in the NFL that's like that.
You don't.
Dan Snyder's the only one that I would expect to do that, and I even know he wouldn't do that. I know he's not that selfish.
I don't think the NFL has done anything to prepare for this whatsoever. And this is why we're seeing players that are opting out. Because if there was a bubble system in play, if there was something else in play that if they set up hotels that were going to be utilized around each team, if they instructed this, then that would be one thing.
Where do you expect them to go? Do you want them to go get an island? Do you want them to go get a Disneyland? Like, I don't know what you want. Because you can't house...
get paid millions of dollars to figure that out.
There is
Roger
no place...
Goodell does.
There's no place big enough to house thousands of people for this entire time. That's... And we're not talking about a small regular season and postseason like the NBA. We're talking about an entire season. We're talking about 6-7 months. And how many fields are you going to need? 8? Minimum?
I'm just saying that the way the NFL has handled this is the equivalent of piss poor.
But there's not much they can do in the realm of a bubble. It's too difficult.
You're focusing on one thing. They could have figured something else out.
But by giving the owners a lot of the power and them doing the right thing by getting hotels or putting up machines that sanitize you, everybody's getting tested daily. What else do you want to be done? There's only so much you can do. It's up to the players to take care of themselves. Go from work to home, home to work. Have somebody else go out and get your groceries.
This isn't going to go well. I'm telling you right off the bat, it's not going to go well.
I think they're going to be perfectly fine. There's going to be some players that get COVID. But I think there's...
Wait till an entire team gets it, because they're in that locker room and they're going to pass it around to each other, and we're going to miss football because the NFL stuck a thumb up their ass and did absolutely nothing for 4 months. That's really what we're going to happen.
No.
Anyway, what team is going to be most affected by this? Because there are plenty that are missing players, again, because the NFL did nothing.
I think Miami is going to be most affected by this. They just lost 2 of their top 3 wide receivers. That offense, who was average at best to begin with, has now become one of the worst in the league. You just put $250+ million into the defense in the offseason, and you didn't do much. You got Jordan Howard and Matt Breida in the trade. But what else did you do? Like I said before, Tua Tagovailoa, if he starts, is set up for failure. He has no weapons to throw to besides Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. That's not enough. Every team, especially in the AFC East, has a dominant corner and dominant linebackers to handle these guys. That's just they've got a young offensive line. They just drafted 2 new tackles. They're a young team. It's going to take some time, and I think without those 2 wide receivers who have a lot of veteran experience, who can help him along, or even if it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, help him through situations, I think that's a huge loss, and they're going to really struggle. I think they went from a team who could have been borderline 8-8 to now I think they're looking at 5 games, 5 wins this season. Mike, you muted yourself.
Sorry. Hit a button by accident. There's so many teams that are gonna be missing major players. Like I'm looking at the Chiefs, who are gonna miss their guard and their their running back, right? So Duvernay is gonna be a doctor up in Canada, and Damian Williams is going to be gone. Yeah, he's opted out. Obviously, the easy pick is the Patriots. They're missing a lot of starters, including their starting right tackle and starting middle linebacker, the shot caller of the defense, their fullback, which they utilize the second most snaps of a fullback. Um, eh, but I honestly want to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I think D'Anthony Thomas was going to be a take off the top of the defense speedster that they were going to utilize really well. And I think Andre Smith, the right tackle, because I'm not just talking specifically the losses that they've gotten with the opt outs. Don't forget the Ravens lost Marshall Yanda earlier in the offseason. So you have the right guard now gone and the starting right tackle now gone. On top of that, one of the weapons for Lamar Jackson that takes the top off the defense is going to be gone. I think that offense is going to falter, and the defense has lost players the last 2 years in the off seasons, and they had they struggled a little bit defensively toward the end of the season last year, and offensively they obviously are missing some key pieces. So I think Baltimore truly needs to start hitting the panic button, because they thrive on the running game. If you're missing an all-pro right guard and your starting right tackle, who you like can you can't just run to the left. Everybody's gonna stack that side, knowing that's your strongest side at this point. So
Well,
Baltimore really needs to figure it out.
I'll give you Marshall Yanda, but he's not a COVID victim. He just retired. Now,
No, I know that.
Andre Smith's being replaced by a second round pick from last year, who they are gonna have to put into the starting job, even though they don't think he's fully ready. But they're gonna have to go with him, and I think that's perfectly fine if you thought he was good enough to be drafted in the second round. Now you're gonna lose D'Anthony Thomas, who's a speedster. He doesn't have the greatest hands, but he's got speed, and he's a converted running back to wide receiver. But they drafted the pride and joy of the Texas Longhorns in Devin Duvernay, and I think Devin Duvernay, a 6'2" frame, who has speed, I think and pretty decent hands. I think he's gonna be perfect. Devin Duvernay was gonna be ahead of D'Anthony Thomas on the depth chart anyway. So I think you've got Willie Snead, you've got Marquise Brown, you've got Devin Duvernay. I'm probably missing one. You've got Mark Andrews, Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins. You've got all these weapons. I think they're going to be perfectly fine.
I don't. Again, you need to protect the quarterback, and you need to
Lamar Jackson, all he does is scramble anyway, so there's not much protecting to be done.
In the running game, and again, you're missing an all-pro right guard, which is already a massive loss. Right? They had their hands full trying to fill that, and now you have to replace the guy next to him, who could have helped in your search for a new guard. Now you have an entire side of the line that is going to be replaced by non-starters, and that's where your running game, which you thrive on, is going to need to come from. Is they ran to the right side more than any team last year, and that includes quarterback scrambles. They're not going to be able to utilize that anymore, because defenses are going to stack the left side, and then they're going to put their better players on the right side, and just it's going to be game over. The Ravens are really going to struggle offensively.
I think they're going to definitely take a step back from last year, but I think that's also in part due to Lamar Jackson not improving like we think he's going to. I'm not buying the hype on Lamar Jackson, and even if he does improve in the passing game, which I think will be minimal, I think there's going to be a lot of teams that figure him out. We saw the Tennessee Titans figure them out in the playoffs last year. I think that's great tape for a lot of teams moving forward. Once you have tape on somebody, all you need to do is develop on that, and it's going to be hard for that team moving forward. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to be the next victim of that. I think he's going to be another RG3 in the future. He's going to be a career backup.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot of teams. I mean, Buffalo's another team that's really going to struggle. I think Star Lotulelei being the anchor in the middle of that defensive line, even though they still have plenty of players to replace that on that D line. But EJ Gaines, huge loss on the back end. I mean, you need covered corners, and he was opposite of um,
Tre'Davious White.
Tre'Davious White. Now Josh Norman, who struggled last year, has to prove that he still has it in him to be the guy that we know him to be. If he resembles what he showed last year, Buffalo may falter a little bit too. There's a lot of what ifs surrounding these opt outs and the teams trying to fill these holes, because there are some players that I don't think can truly be replicated or can be replaced by the team, especially this late in the offseason, heading into camp right as we are now.
It's possible. I think the Buffalo Bills are a very strong team. I don't see many issues with them. Well, I've been over their depth chart many times, and I know that they can take pretty much any one of their defensive ends and throw them at defensive tackle if they need to. AJ Epinesa would be a great one right off the bat. He's not going to probably get to start at defensive end just because they're so stacked there, and he's a 280-pound guy. He's a little lean. He's more of an Aaron Donald size, but I think he'd be perfect in the middle for the time being, and I think he could really help them in that aspect. And
I wouldn't throw Aaron Donald's name.
No,
around.
I'm just saying, there
Aaron
really
Donald's
aren't that many
500 pounds.
There really aren't that many defensive tackles that are below 300 pounds in the league. So he's the really only real comparison out there. But I think that they could pull from different players, and they also have Levi Wallace, who's been in the league a few years. He's done pretty good. I think he if he can make a little improvement, I think that he could be a great number 2 or 3, depending on where Josh Norman plays. And they still have Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde as their safeties. I think as long as you have those top tier safeties in the backfield, you're going to be perfectly fine. As long as you have that help, you don't need your corners to be spectacular all the time. And maybe you have to play a little bit more zone defense. I mean, that's where Josh Norman thrives anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. There's things have obviously shifted. Players that were coming back from injury or meant to step up and really show their team something or provide depth or whatever. Every loss has some sort of impact on a team, and we won't really get to see that until it's game time, until training camp starts getting involved and coaches really get a look at what they have on the roster. And again, we don't know who's left, if anybody else is getting ready to opt out. If Mike Florio is correct, we could have a lot on our hands moving forward. So we'll see.
We'll definitely have to come back to this next week once we have all of the names of the opt-outs and know what we're dealing with in the NFL.
For sure. Just a couple housekeeping items. Jordan Reed signed with the 49ers. Nick, quickly, what do you think the impact he'll have on the 49ers?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a minimal impact. He's going to be playing behind George Kittle. George Kittle only had 1 touchdown last year. He had a lot of yardage, but I don't see him having much of an impact. They have a lot of wide receivers. They still have a two-headed monster at running back. Three if Jerick McKinnon can come back to form. And I just don't. If he can stay healthy, this is a guy who has 6 concussions in his career, hasn't played in a year and a half, and I just don't have much faith in him. It's an incentive laden deal, so he really doesn't get paid unless he performs. And I just don't think a guy that has been hurt his entire career. I don't see what's going to change now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the skill to do everything that George Kittle does. He just can't stay healthy. That I think that's the difference between their careers. In all honesty, I think you're replicating exactly what you have in Kittle, and as a number two tight end, if Jordan Reed can stay healthy, I think he provides some excellent size and speed down the middle of the field. He's going to stretch defenses right through the middle, and who knows? I mean, we the last time we saw a a dynamic duo at tight end. You're talking about Gronkowski, Hernandez. You're talking about Vernon Davis and Jordan Reed. You're talking about some spectacular duos that we've seen in recent years. And if he can stay healthy, San Francisco is going to really thrive because Jimmy G will have what he likes in the middle of the field in size. He's going to have speed on the outside. He's got monsters in the backfield to help support him as well. San Francisco's doing everything in their power to support Jimmy Garoppolo and give him all the weapons that he could possibly want and need. If he can't perform with everything they're giving him, then it's time to start looking. Maybe it's not the weapons. Maybe it's the quarterback himself. Excuse me. Um, Another thing was the Raiders released Jeremy Hill 2 days after signing him. So Josh Jacobs is not like his job was ever in doubt, but he looks like the only major name on the running back depth chart as of right now for the Raiders.
I
And
think
then
I think that news made it past me, but I'm guessing I guess he wasn't in shape, or what wasn't in the form that they thought he was.
um, yeah, it just says that he was released. Um, the Bills have tweaked Stephon Diggs' contract. They're actually going to be paying him more this year. So they're taking some money off the back end, probably to start getting ready to pay some of their younger players that they have, Tre'Davious White, Josh Allen, so far and so forth. And then finally, Bruce Arians came out and said Ronald Jones will be the premier back. He will quote carry the load as Bucks running back one. I
That's
think
not
that's
news.
it's not news, but it's good
It's
for
confirmation.
fantasy
It's
owners.
just
It's good
confirmation.
right. And you know what? You're also instilling confidence in the running back, knowing that he is the guy, he's the bell cow that Tom Brady's going to be handing off to, and Bruce Arians is doing a good job of making sure that there are no questions surrounding this offense. So that is all I have for news in the NFL. I think that's it. Do you have anything else for the NFL?
No.
Okay. All right. Final item on the agenda, and it's kind of a fun one. We're gonna have a little debate like we have all most of the show today. Um, we've seen some firepower coming out of Major League Baseball. Um, Obviously, Aaron Judge has been just a rocket show. He hit 6 home runs in his last 5 games. He is just belting the ball. He looks like he's in mid-season form, and the season technically just got started. Um, I know. I think I know your answer, but is there a more dominant player in Major League Baseball right now?
I no, there's not. Aaron Judge is the top at the top of the MLB right now. He's better than Mike Trout. He's proving that he can carry the load of any team. Gary Sanchez has been a no-show for the Yankees. Giancarlo was hot and cooled off right away. Aaron Judge carried the Yankees right through the Red Sox series, and the Yankees right now are 8-1. They're the best team in baseball, and they're going to continue to be the best team in baseball because they have Aaron Judge, who's just lighting it up. This is a guy who, if he can stay healthy, he's going to do what he did in 2017 and put up 50-plus home runs. He the last two
He won't do that
seasons.
in a shortened season.
Well, the last 2 seasons he's put up 27 home runs and played just over 100 games. You're gonna, if you give him a full 150 games that he plays, yeah, I think that he's gonna put up near 40 home runs a season. And if this was a full season, if this was the beginning, I'd be saying he's putting up over 60.
Yeah. I mean, you're cheating a little bit with that short porch and right in New York, in the Bronx. So that's a
Everybody's got their
little
thing.
takeaway. Yeah,
Everybody's
everybody's got their thing. Um, I If you want to say dominant, I'll go Aaron Judge. If you want to say best, which is exactly what you said, roll the VOD if you need to check it.
Nope.
Mike Trout is obviously the best player in baseball all around. I mean, he does more than Judge in the field. He does more than Judge when it comes to the plate. All Judge has him beaten is home runs. So if you
different
want to talk about,
positions.
they play outfield.
Center field versus right field's very different. The ball gets hit to center field a lot
You're right.
more.
Center fielders are much more athletic and much more relied upon than a right fielder in the short side of New York in Yankee Stadium.
There is nobody more athletic in sports than Aaron Judge.
What? Y'all need to just hold the phone because
He looks like LeBron. He has the same body as LeBron, but he's a younger LeBron.
And he smiles like Strahan. That tells me absolutely nothing, okay? LeBron is much more athletic than Aaron Judge at his age than Aaron Judge is at the peewee age of fucking 4 or however old he is. I mean, he's youngish. How old is he? Like 24?
He's like 26 or 27.
He's younger than I am. Oh my god. All right. He is not the most athletic player in sports. There's no shot. First of all, no baseball player is the most athletic player in sports. Let's just throw that out there real quick.
I disagree, but that's a different argument. So
no, it's not. You're telling me that Aaron Judge, if he were to hit a football field and get drilled by Cam Chancellor, would be just fine.
Yeah, because Cam Chancellor is going to go backwards.
No shot. So now you're just a delusional Yankees fan.
No,
you are, and that's fine. You can have your homerisms all you want. I'm just saying Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. He's won the MVP. What, three times, 4 times? I don't know. I lose count. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
you know how many times Aaron Judge has won it?
Yeah, but how many seasons has
how many times
Mike Trout has been in the league since 2011?
How many times? Just answer the question.
Not yet. None yet.
Okay. All right. So none.
Oh, we'll wait till after the season. Oh, we'll just wait till after the season.
He can win as many Silver Slugger awards as he can. MVP is a completely different conversation, and Aaron Judge isn't in that conversation because
he will be this year.
You're talking about a 60-game shortened season that may not even finish out. Most likely won't even finish out. That's what we're talking about? Really? No. He's extremely dominant. I'm willing to concede that fact. He is not the best player in baseball. There is nothing you can tell me from his stat line that tells me he's the best player in baseball. There's nothing.
In 2017, that was because that's really the only full season that I can go off of. 52 home runs. What else do you want a guy to do?
That part that you just said right there. That's really his only full season. Right there.
Even in a shortened season, even when he plays 100 games in a season, he's putting up 27 home runs.
You're only focusing on home runs. Let's look at the batting averages. Let's looking at the on-base percentage. Let's look at the fielding. Let's look at everything else that goes into it.
No,
Aaron Judge is surrounded by people that help support him. You can't tell me that the pitching staff for the Yankees isn't better. You can't tell me that it isn't better than the Angels, because it is.
It's slightly better. I think
You think the Yankees pitching staff is slightly better than the Angels? No shot. You're bugging out because there's no
the Yankees.
Shot.
Okay, then why did the Yankees almost lose to the Orioles? Why did the Yankees almost lose a couple games to the Red Sox?
Because they had an off day. I don't know what to tell you.
You can't have off days. Not as a
That
pitcher.
you can have off days.
No, because then you need your team to carry you. Luckily, Aaron Judge was there to carry them because he's the only one.
He's the most dominant player in baseball. Yes, I get that. He is
He's the
not
best
the
player in
best.
baseball.
No, he's not. He is not the best player in baseball. He's not even. No, no, no.
Just
I
because
refuse.
just
I
because he
refuse to
doesn't
concede
get
that argument.
hit the ball enough in the field as much as Trout does to make as many spectacular plays, but Aaron Judge has robbed multiple home runs. He's made great diving catches. He's made huge throws all the way to home plate.
Cool. He did everything a professional baseball player should be able to do.
No, he does an exceptional job, especially for somebody who's 6'7" and 270 pounds. That's something you don't find in
Yeah,
baseball.
he is a physical specimen
He's
playing the sport of baseball. I get that. But when you're talking about the best player, right? So let's see. Mike Trout, MVP, MVP, MVP.
and
So he's won it 3 times.
how many of them
And
were
he's
before 2017?
2. One was 2016.
So you're telling me that since Aaron Judge has entered the league, that Mike Trout has had it once.
Yep, and he won. And
I'm not trying to say that
in 2018, 2019, he also won the Silver Slugger Award, which is the best hitter in the American League, which is where Aaron Judge also plays.
yeah, and Mike Trout also had a longer season.
No, he didn't. Or he might have. I mean, 140 games and 134 games.
And last season, Aaron Judge had around 103 games and 113 the year before that. So
he needs to figure out how to stay healthy.
It's not even fully on him. It's the Yankees organization holding him out to make sure that he doesn't get re-injured right away. So he stays out even longer than he has to, just so he stays healthy. And
so they choose not to play him. Got it. That's fine.
You can
Mike
twist
Trout
it and turn it in any direction you want.
Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. That's all you need to understand.
No.
I mean, you can stick inside of your delusions as much as you want. The fact that remains that Aaron Judge, he's a great player. He is not the best player in baseball. There's no argument you can give me that shows me he is the best player in baseball.
I know I'm not going to change your mind. You're biased. Your favorite player is Mike Trout. I get that. I mean,
it's not even just bias. It's just straight facts. There's nothing that tells me that Aaron Judge is on the same playing field as Mike Trout.
If you just take the numbers and you average them out, Aaron Judge has been more consistent, and especially this year so far. I know it's only
so Aaron Judge started in 2016.
He played a few games. That doesn't really count.
27 games.
That's not even his rookie season. 2017 is his rookie season.
Yeah, well, he didn't play enough to be a rookie. All right. So last year wasn't in the MVP discussion. 2018, he came in 12th in the MVP voting.
After being injured.
And in 2017, his best year, he came in second.
As a rookie, you're not going to give a rookie
That's 1 year.
The MVP?
That's 1 year. He hasn't done as well since. If this was a player you didn't like, you'd say, he was a 1-year wonder.
A 1-year wonder? He's the best player in baseball right now.
No, he's not. You're saying that because you're biased. You sleep on an Aaron Judge-sized pillow. You dream about him hitting home runs.
I don't have to dream. I just watch him.
It's a dream. Let's see what his batting average is. He hit, in his career, 274. Interesting. Mike Trout, 305.
We're talking about 3 years versus 8 years or 9 years.
We're talking about 5 years versus 10 years.
No, you can't count 2016. That's not enough.
So you were talking about 9 years and 4 years.
2020, we're 9 games into the season.
It still counts. It doesn't matter. you will have, if he continued on this path, he'd have a lower batting average, and Mike Trout's is over 9 years,
Yeah,
30
it's
points
it's
better.
easier to increase your batting average over time.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it's easier to do it in a shorter span.
Okay, if you were to take Mike Trout's batting average over the first 3 years of his career, it's gonna be right around the same.
No, it was
I'm
higher.
just saying Aaron Judge has surpassed him as the best player in baseball.
No, he has not. No, he has not. There's nothing that says that. There's nothing that physically says he is the best player in
Okay,
baseball.
where have the Angels been the last few years in the playoffs? Oh,
The
non-existent.
Yankees
That's
have a
right.
better roster.
The last few years, it's been pretty close to the Angels. You have Mike Trout. You have
They're in the same division, mind you, as the cheating Astros. So they had that to deal with.
I mean, the Astros have been doing fine so far.
So are you now saying that the Astros didn't cheat?
Oh my God! Stop trying to pin me against the
Is that
wall.
what you're saying?
No,
You're pinning yourself against the wall.
I'm
Bruce
not.
Buffer better call this one, because holy shit, man. You are back to the ground, not moving at this point in time. I can't even. All right, we need to end this show because the as oh god, as Stephen A would say, the blasphemy that's coming out of you right now is just ridiculous.
You're delusional. You'll come around after a few years of Aaron Judge winning back-to-back-to-back MVPs.
And when you wake up, you can apologize to me for making me this angry. Just so you know, I want an apology.
You're never gonna get it.
Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours.
Have
All
fun
right.
with your winless Red Sox, with your garbage team.
We are not winless.
Oh, you got to win. You got an easy win over the Baltimore
I don't
Orioles.
care about baseball. I don't care about baseball. The Red Sox
are
I don't
trash.
care about the Red Sox for 6 years.
It must be sad to think that the Orioles are better than your team.
You can't hurt me.
I can't.
I don't care. I don't care enough. Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. All right, we're gonna end the show there. Thank you guys for listening. This was a pretty fiery episode. Let us know who you think is the best player in baseball, and if it's not Mike Trout,
Aaron Judge.
I'm pretty sure your YouTube account gets deleted.
Aaron Judge will bring it back to life.
I don't know about all that. All right. Well, have a great week, everyone. We're gonna sign off, and keep track of our Twitter. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube page if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Make sure to check out our social media page. Keep up with everything. Nick does a great job of live tweeting UFC events and different events that are happening throughout the weekend. We try to keep up with as much NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA news as humanly possible. There's so much going on all the time. We try to do our best. Make sure to drop us a like, drop us a follow on Twitter. We're getting close. We want to get that check mark next to our name. So make sure to drop us a follow, reach out to us. And if you want your comment featured on next week's episode, be sure to say something nice down below, and you could be featured. And maybe I'll yell at you like I yell at Nick. All right. Peace.